Welcome to the Sixth Wheels Consulting Podcast, dialoguing disability and discussing difference, inclusion, and all abilities in today's world. Now here are your hosts, Matthew Shapiro and Bob Nolly.
You're here. Episode 015. This is Bob Nolly. Welcome back. Come on in. Join us. Matthew Shapiro, how are you?
Bob, I am good, but crazy, but good.
That's GBC. Good, but crazy.
Yes.
Good, but crazy. The alternative is worse, trust me.
Yes, it's always a delight to hear your sultry voice.
Wow. Number one, I'm flattered over just being characterized as a delight. I can't recall the last time that happened. And then I'm like double flattered by the use of the term sultry.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, everybody thinks I'm doing that through the mixing board, but no.
No, that's
not
actually
at all.
Your voice.
Hey, you and I go through the papers in the broadest of sense tonight. We were just talking about the sports section before we went on the air here.
Yes,
but a couple of episodes back, we talked about the perspective of the limited opportunities for the disabled community in Hollywood.
Sure.
And I thought we were very grounded in that, and you made some good points.
I do what I can with what I can.
But I just found out that there's a film that has just been released, 2 days ago, called CinemAbility. Let me roll that out again. CinemAbility. Now listen to the subtitle here. CinemAbility, the art of inclusion. Are we not on track or what?
Oh, it's like ringing joy to my ears, Mr. Nolly.
CinemAbility, the art of inclusion. So it's really just a piece of work that's filled with a who's who of Hollywood A-listers. I mean, I'm going to read them to you here in a minute. And it analyzes how disability has been represented in the movies and on TV over the last 120 years. They start with silent films and come forward to modern-day blockbusters. So some of the folks that are in on this, Ben Affleck, there you go. There's an A-lister. William H. Macy.
Yep.
Marlee Matlin. R.J. Mitchell, Jamie Foxx, Gina Davis, Helen Hunt. Wow. It's 97 minutes long. It's hosted by Jane Seymour.
A who's who of Hollywood stars.
Sure. So that's on that side of the lens. Behind the camera, it's directed by Jenny Gold. And she was inspired, she says, to pursue this to offer historical context, but soon realized, this is going to warm your heart, that the story was much bigger. This is a quote. There was more behind these characters and depictions than the stereotypes that emerged, which in some instances are still adhered to. Says Gold. Gold is the only director member of the Directors Guild of America who uses a wheelchair.
Oh my goodness. It makes me so happy.
I just thought this was big news. She goes on to say, in fact, we found to be much richer in that there's a strong correlation between these depictions and how people with disabilities are treated. And as portrayals have become more well-rounded and more realistic, actual people with disabilities have become more accepted socially and more integrated into society, she said. CinemAbility was released October 5th, and no matter when you're listening, that was just 3 days ago. And it's on iTunes, so we could watch it tonight.
I know what I'm doing soon.
There you go. And then we'll have another episode about that too.
Yes.
So before, I've got more on this, but let me just draw a breath right now. What are your thoughts on having not seen it? What are your hopes for it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I hope that it's called CinemAbility. Is that right?
CinemAbility. It's like cinema with the word "bility" at the end of it. CinemAbility. Yeah.
CinemAbility. That's a mouthful. My hope is that it portrays all of the actors who have disabilities in a genuine light, because as we talked about on a previous episode, people with disabilities who are actors want the work, right? And they want to they want to be portraying a disability situation as genuinely and as correctly as possible. But so often society wants to get the great hunky looking guy or the beautiful girl who is not disabled to serve in those roles. And so I think this movie, while I'm excited to see it and we'll certainly go track it down on iTunes very, very soon, it is sending us in a great direction towards full media inclusion. As we talked about on the previous episode, we're seeing more and more representations of disability on our small screens, on our large screens, and every year there seems to be a new show out that is accurately portraying disability in a way that I think is genuinely pretty spot on. Now all we need to do is get actors who have disabilities in those roles. One of my all-time favorite shows, and I don't know if you have seen it on Netflix yet, Mr. Nolly, but it's Atypical. And for those that don't know, Atypical is about a family who has a adult son with he either has autism or has Asperger's. I know he's on the spectrum in one form or another.
Right.
And the character is played by actor Keir Gilchrist, who is not an individual with a disability. But one of the intriguing things that they did this season, they just came out with their second season on Netflix, and I watched it in a day. There's 10 episodes, each about a half an hour, and I was flying through those things like I was driving my chair like I stole something. It was amazing. But one of the amazing things that they did as part of season 2 was they had a support group that Sam, who is the character played by Keir, who has autism, he was in a support group, and they actually hired 5 or 6 working actors who are on the spectrum to be part of the peer group and have, reliable credits in a show that is widely renowned as, a great show on Netflix, and one that a lot of people see and are talking about. And there's a lot of good dialogue about the second season. In addition to that, the third season of ABC's, I believe it's ABC, the show Speechless just started last Friday. And that show is about a family who has a child who uses a wheelchair as part of their family, and how they go about navigating the whole world with him as a wheelchair user. And in that show, the wheelchair user is named Micah Fowler, and he is actually a wheelchair user in real life. And so it's interesting that you have one scenario where the lead actor is not a person with a disability, but they're bringing on disability representation more clearly through other means. And then in another show, one of the lead actors and one of the main characters actually is a person with a disability. So, I think we're making great strides. I'm intrigued to see this movie.
Okay, what was the name of the show you were just talking about?
The second show?
Yes.
It's called Speechless.
Speechless. Okay,
yes.
And the first one was?
The first one was called Atypical.
Atypical and Speechless. We got some binge watching to do here.
Yes. So Atypical is on Netflix, and Speechless is on one of the big 3 networks, ABC, CBS. I think I'm like 95% sure it's ABC.
Okay.
You can binge watch Atypical. The first 2 seasons are currently on Netflix. I am a huge fan of it. Those 2 shows, I will tell you, are the best portrayals of disability in media that I have seen up to this point. From a wheelchair user's perspective, Speechless hits on all of my happy places, so to speak, because a lot of the episodes and the topic areas that they touch on in each episode is something that I have lived through. You know, whether it's, you know, don't take my voice away, or, you know, don't sort of have that inspiration porn angle about me. And I think we've talked about inspiration porn previously on an episode.
Right, yeah.
And like a lot of the things that I see in that show, I've lived through in my life. And so as a wheelchair user, like, to see that reflected from my TV screen just makes me feel like we're heading in a much more positive and inclusive direction. I think we have a lot of work still to do. I think we need to see a lot more actors who actually have disabilities in roles on Broadway, in movies, in TV shows, all sorts of things.
Yeah. So we've got a stack of things to do here. I know I read the quote from the article from Jenny, but I think she also wrote the blurb for IMDb. Here's what she says. This dynamic documentary will take a detailed look at the evolution of disability themes in entertainment, from film to TV to the web, to see if the media has had a hand in transforming the societal inclusion of those with disabilities. Wow. Our in-depth investigation has gone behind the scenes to interview filmmakers, studio execs, film historians, and celebs, and uses vivid clips from Hollywood's most beloved motion pictures and TV shows to focus attention on the powerful impact that entertainment and the media can have on society. Do disability portrayals in the media impact society, or does the media simply reflect the public's ever-changing attitudes? This important documentary explores these questions and more to see if the media has had a hand in transforming the societal inclusion of the disabled, and to prove how the enlightened understanding of disability can have a positive impact on the world. Amen.
I mean, that's all we've been talking about this entire journey that we've been on this podcast, is just the positive outlooks. And it's so funny because I actually did my senior sociology thesis on, when I graduated from BCU, on the portrayal of disability in media. So I would be very curious to compare kind of my thesis to what this movie and this documentary have come up with.
And you know what we should do? Since we've, plugged this movie to everybody here, we're not in a position to give it away to them. I can't air it here for them. They're going to have to go see it. We should make sure that people go and give us some feedback on the Facebook page of what they thought, what their favorite part of it is, and what you thought about it. That would be a great point of conversation here.
Can you remind me and the listeners again the name of the title, the full title?
This movie is called CinemAbility. It's one word, CinemAbility.
That is a mouthful.
Yep. It's good. So here's the cast. I did a little bit about the cast. Of course, Ben Affleck, A is for Affleck, Michael Apted, Adam Arkin, fan of his, Paris Barkley. Here's a guy, Peter Bogdanovich, Bo Bridges, Mark Cherry, Michael D'Amore, Gina Davis, who has executive producer creds here, I'm sure, because Richard Donner, Peter Farrelly, Fern Field, Rick Finkelstein, Tobias Forrest, Jamie Foxx. I told you the storyline, so there's already a review for it here, which is good, just released. And it says, there are many documentaries about the history of Hollywood, but none cover an important topic like this one. CinemAbility throws the real history of handicapped actors in Hollywood and how many things need to be changed in the way they are treated. So this needs to be edited here. So somebody just posted this. It looks like a regular fan. It's okay. This is an educational documentary that will leave you inspired, that's good, and interested, even better. It also has some humor from actors who are interviewed in many older classic films. The film starts in the late 19th century. Wow, the late 19th century, showing the first handicapped people in films. It goes all the way up to recent films. Actors talk about their opinions on the matter and what it's like being handicapped. I love this film.
because it doesn't just look at Hollywood as discriminating against handicapped people. Instead, it looks at movies and movements that have really pushed for equality. And it also features handicapped actors who tell the viewer how Hollywood can make improvements. 98 minutes of length. It's a real movie. It's an hour and a half. There you go. My favorite scene. Oh, I'm not going to read that. That's a spoiler. Just like that. That's a spoiler.
Spoiler alert!
Here, well, okay, I can say this. CinemAbility does have some mature topics. So she recommends that it's for ages 10 to 18. Well, they have mature topics and you're saying 10 is okay? Well, it's up to you. You're the critic. Okay. And she gives it 5 out of 5 stars for great directing, entertaining elements, interesting and educational material, and a unique concept. It took 10 years to complete this film, mainly possible due to a partnership between the Gina Davis Institute on Gender Media and Gold Pictures, which is the director's Jenny Gold's, her company, her production company. Wow. That was reviewed by somebody named Jerry O with a G, Jerry O, Kids First film critic. So that's good to know. All right, that's a mouthful. So now you're excited. So I'm sure we had stuff we were going to do. We got off the air. Now we're going to have to go look this up and give it a watch.
I will ask if you could please share the link with me. I really want to go give this film a look, and we can certainly have a conversation about it afterwards.
Yeah, sure. We will. We'll invite all of our friends here as well.
Yes.
So we have things scheduled for next week, and then we're going to start to have some guests on here soon.
Yes, we are. Our guests are very excited. We've got some exciting things coming up here soon. I've also just gotten off a few trips, and I'd love to. I just participated in my 4th No Barriers Summit. And
wow. So tell us about that. Tell us about the nature of the No Barrier Summit and what excited you about this particular iteration.
Sure. So I think we talked about that in previous episodes where I attended the No Barrier Summit, and that's where you can do different adaptive sports activities. And that's really where I've learned to sort of shatter my comfort zone, so to speak. And so, depending on when you listen to this, recently I just got back from New York, where my 4th summit that I took part in was taking place. And during the summit, I took part in an improv class, which was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, there you go.
I find that I'm pretty quick-witted, if I do say so myself.
And no surprise here.
Sure. I also took part in an adaptive fencing seminar. So I had a little bit of, I guess you could say, on guard going on.
On guard, oh.
And then also took part in a workout routine with some amazing trainers and vendors. So, saw so many familiar faces. Had a little bit of trouble navigating New York, but we've talked to, we all sort of, I think, know based on previous episodes that New York is not one of my most favorite places in the whole world.
It's a classic, a nice place to visit. Wouldn't want to live there. It's a tough place to go when you're all together.
Yes. So, had a remarkable experience. Took in a play while we were in New York. So,
what'd you get to see?
We saw The School of Rock.
Oh, is that not great?
It was very, very good. I have the soundtrack on a loop right now because it's that good. But just very grateful for that opportunity, and got a lot more traveling opportunities coming up here soon with lots of speeches. Earlier today, depending on when you hear this, I was a keynote speaker at an event at VCU. So that keynote went over incredibly, incredibly well, and very honored that they had asked me to do that. And then coming up here in the next couple of days, I have about 6 speeches in the next month and a half. So
all right, well, let's get you back to the keyboard so you can get ready for this.
Very, very busy man, but Lot of good things in the works. We're growing the podcast in a number of amazing ways, and would love to just talk more in detail about No Barriers and other things that we have going on in a future episode. But
we'll do it. It's going to happen.
Awesome. I would just encourage everyone to check out the amazing film. I know I'm going to check it out, and maybe we'll also do a review of the film once you've had a chance.
Sure. Yeah, we well should. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to episode 15 of the Six Wheels Consulting Podcast. For Matthew Shapiro, this is Bob Nolly. In conclusion, keep rolling forward.
Love it.